When my father passed away, I thought maybe I could finally let go of all the pain. But the will he left behind shattered that hope. This is a story about favoritism, betrayal, and the journey to reclaim my own worth. Drop a comment to see what happens next. My name is Elliot. I'm 34 years old, and if there's one thing I've learned lately, it's this. Some wounds never really close. They scab over, they fade, but the moment you least expect it, they reopen. That's what happened to me. A lifetime of subtle dismissals, cold shoulders, and being the second choice. All of it came crashing down in the span of just a few days. Growing up, my father, Walter, had this image he wanted to protect. A strong, proud man who built everything with his own hands and expected his children to reflect that legacy. Unfortunately, I never quite fit that mold. No matter how hard I tried, honor roll, scholarships, decent job, I was always just there, present but never praised, seen but never celebrated. My younger sister Clara, on the other hand, was everything he wanted in a child. She was brilliant, ambitious, and had this polished, sharp charm that made people lean in when she spoke. At 28, she had already climbed the corporate ladder, landing a senior director position that had my father bursting with pride. If she was the golden child, I was the forgotten one, always just outside the spotlight. I told myself for years that it didn't matter, that I didn't need his approval, but then came that Thursday night dinner. Mom had cooked, like she always did. We sat around the table, Dad, Clara, and me. It wasn't warm or nostalgic. These dinners were tradition more than connection. Everyone was there, but no one was truly there. I tried to break the monotony, telling Clara about a project at work I'd poured myself into. For once, I wanted to share something I was proud of. But just as I was finishing, Dad cut in. "You'll never be good enough, Elliot. You just don't get it." It hit like a slap. Not sarcasm, not a joke. Just cold truth from a man who decided long ago I wasn't worth his pride. Mom said nothing. Clara gave a slight smile, almost like she expected it. A ritual, a routine. That night, I sat in my apartment staring at the walls. The silence was louder than the insult. I kept thinking, was that how he always saw me? Had he ever truly believed in me? The next morning it got worse. I woke up to a Facebook post from Dad, a long, glowing tribute to Clara's promotion. My daughter, the pride of our family, so intelligent, so driven, proof that hard work pays off. Dozens of likes, comments from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. Everyone congratulating her, planning a party, acting like she'd won a Nobel Prize. Not one mention of me, not even a "thanks for coming to dinner last night." And then came the call. "Elliot," Dad said flatly, "we're throwing Clara a party. You'll contribute. $1,500 should be enough." I remember the pause, my disbelief, and the way he added, "She deserves the best, and you're part of this family. You'll do your part." I didn't know it then, but that call would change everything, not just because of what he asked, but because it forced me to face the truth I had been avoiding my whole life. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on my couch, the light from my phone screen still burning into my eyes, long after I stopped scrolling. I kept hearing Dad's voice, sharp, absolute, "You'll never be good enough." Then the demand for money, as if I were a side character financing the star of his show. It wasn't just about the party. It was a lifetime of feeling like I never belonged. When morning came, I told myself I wouldn't respond, but I couldn't help it. I called him. "Dad," I said, keeping my voice even. "I'm not sending the money." There was a pause, short, but heavy. Then he replied with that disappointed growl I knew all too well. "That's disappointing, Elliot. I thought you'd finally do something right." I ended the call before I could say something I'd regret. But even then, something had already snapped inside me. Not in rage, but in clarity. I realized I didn't just feel left out. I had been pushed out, for years, subtly, consistently. And now, it was undeniable. Later that afternoon, Clara messaged me. I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd understand, but when I told her what happened, she barely blinked. Dad's just trying to celebrate something important to me. You should be happy for me. I am happy for you, I replied, but not at the expense of my dignity. Her tone changed. You've always been so self-centered, Elliot. Just let me have this. It hurt. Not because I expected her to take my side, but because it confirmed what I feared. She didn't see it. Or worse, she did, and chose to look away. That night, I received a text from a number I didn't recognize. Hi, Elliot. This is Bryce, your father's accountant. We're collecting party contributions by Friday. Please confirm your payment. I laughed out loud. Not because it was funny, but because it felt surreal. Like my family had become a corporation, and I'd missed the memo. That's when I remembered the boxes in my closet. Old documents from my parents' attic I had taken months ago when Mom asked me to help her declutter. I hadn't looked at them since. I pulled them out on a whim. At first, it was the usual. Old receipts, property deeds, financial records from decades ago. But then I found it. A file marked Estate Planning. Inside, a draft of Dad's will. It was recent. It named Clara as the sole beneficiary. Every asset, every account, even the car I bought him last year. My name appeared once, in a side note to explain that I was independent and in no need of financial assistance. I sat there for hours, staring at that sentence. It wasn't about the money, it was the principle, the deliberate erasure, the belief that I didn't matter enough to even be considered. That's when the decision formed. I wouldn't argue, I wouldn't beg. I would expose the truth, calmly, clearly, with receipts. The party was a week away. I had 7 days to plan how I'd end years of silence and reclaim my place in this story. The invitation to Clara's promotion party sat on my kitchen counter like a weight I couldn't ignore. Gold foil, heavy cardstock, RSVP enclosed. It was more like a royal gala than a simple family celebration. But what struck me wasn't the extravagance. It was the demand from my father to contribute $1,500 for the event. For a party I wasn't even acknowledged in. It felt like one more step in the long line of erasures that had defined my place in the family. I told him no. I told Clara too. She didn't take it well. You're being selfish, she said. Dad's trying to honor my achievement, and you can't be bothered to support that? I tried to explain that it wasn't about her. It was about a lifetime of being pushed aside, but she wasn't ready to hear it. Or maybe she was too deep in Dad's orbit to care. The next blow came from an unexpected source, Dad's accountant. I received a text from a number I didn't recognize. Hi, Elliot. This is Bryce. Just following up on your contribution to Clara's party. Please confirm by Friday. It felt like a business transaction, not a family moment. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about money. This was about control. A system Dad had designed, with Clara at the center. That night, unable to sleep, I climbed into the attic, where I had stored some of Mom's old boxes after helping her clean out the house last year. In one box, buried under photo albums and tax returns, was a folder labeled Estate Planning. I opened it, expecting nothing. What I found shocked me. There it was, a revised will, drafted just months ago, leaving everything to Clara, the house, the savings, even the car I had bought Dad 2 years ago as a gift. My name was barely mentioned. I wasn't angry at the will itself. I was angry because it confirmed everything I had tried to deny, that I was invisible to him, an afterthought. Over the next few days, I couldn't function. Work suffered. I avoided calls. I kept hearing Dad's voice, "You'll never be good enough," echoing like a curse. I confided in Mom during a quiet coffee shop meeting. Her eyes widened when I mentioned the will. "I didn't know he'd finalized it," she said softly. "But he's been talking about it for a long time. He's always said Clara is the one who would carry on the family name." I asked her, "And me? What am I? Her voice trembled. I don't know, Elliot. I tried to fight for you, but he doesn't listen. That crushed me more than the will, because she knew. She always knew. I left that meeting with one thought. If no one would speak the truth, then I would. Not to destroy, but to finally be heard. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of what would happen next. I didn't go to Clara's celebration. No gifts, no messages, no explanation. Instead, I did something I never thought I'd do. I hit send on an email that I had written and rewritten a dozen times over. The email didn't accuse, it revealed. I shared what I found in Dad's estate papers, the revised will, the flow of financial records showing decades of favoritism, lavish gifts, a car, secret business transfers, everything in Clara's name. I addressed it to Dad, Clara, and several key family members, uncles, aunts, cousins. I CC'd a few of Clara's close friends, and even her work contacts who had been invited to the party. I didn't expect applause. I expected silence, or maybe backlash. But the moment I sent it, I felt something lift. Not peace, not yet, but power. For once, I had taken control of my own story. Reactions came quickly. My phone lit up with message after message. Some family members responded with quiet support. My cousin Eleanor wrote, "Elliot, I always saw it but didn't know how to say anything. I'm proud of you for speaking up." Others were not so kind. One of Dad's longtime friends emailed back, "Air your dirty laundry in private." This was shameful. Clara didn't reply to me directly. Instead, she posted on social media. Her post read like a PR statement. "Some people try to bring you down when you are finally succeeding, but I won't let jealousy ruin this moment." Comments poured in. "You're amazing. Ignore the haters. So proud of you." My name was never mentioned, but the implication was loud and clear. I was the bitter sibling, the disgruntled failure. And yet, something changed. Mom called a few nights later. Her voice was tight, but not angry. "I saw what you wrote," she said, "and I can't say you're wrong. I've lived in fear of your father's anger for years. I should have said something sooner." There was sadness in her tone, regret, but also honesty. A week passed, then a call from Uncle Graham, Dad's brother. We hadn't spoken in years. "I had no idea it got this bad," he said. "But knowing Walter, I'm not surprised. He's been like this since we were kids. You were never the problem, Elliot. He was." Hearing that made me realize something I'd never let myself believe. I wasn't alone. This wasn't just about me. It was about a pattern, passed down, reinforced, never questioned. And then came Dad's response. A letter, handwritten, mailed, and cold. "You've made your choice. Don't contact me again. I will be updating the will to reflect your betrayal." It ended with, "You've humiliated this family." I folded the letter quietly and placed it in a folder with the rest of the documents. I wasn't surprised. For a man who lived for control, exposure was the ultimate threat. But I wasn't afraid of him anymore. This wasn't just my story now. It was the beginning of dismantling something toxic. And I was ready to keep going, alone, if I had to. After the letter from Dad, there was silence. The kind that doesn't echo, it just lingers. But for the first time, I didn't feel the need to fix it. I didn't chase his approval. I didn't mourn the absence. I had already said what needed to be said. Then came Clara's message. "Can we talk?" I stared at it for a long time. This was the same sister who had dismissed my feelings, accused me of being selfish, defended the very system that kept me invisible. But I was curious, not out of hope, but clarity. We met at a small park near our old high school, under the same trees we used to race beneath as kids. Clara looked different. Not polished, not composed, just tired. The first thing she said was, "I read everything." And then, slowly, she admitted what I never thought I'd hear. "I didn't want to see it, Elliot. I wanted to believe Dad loved us both, but he didn't protect me. He used me. When the questions started after your email, he turned on me too, cut off my funding, blamed me for not silencing you. There it was, the crack in her perfect image. The realization that her pedestal wasn't security, it was leverage. She said, "I was awful to you. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I needed to say it." I didn't jump to hug her or offer instant reconciliation. I just nodded. "I believe you," I said, "but that doesn't mean we're okay. Not yet." "Maybe someday," she replied quietly. After that day, things started to shift. Small, steady changes. Aunt Diana sent a letter of apology. Cousins began reaching out. I was invited to a graduation I hadn't expected to attend. No one said it directly, but the tide was turning. Not in my favor, but toward balance. Dad stayed silent. Publicly, he claimed the issue was exaggerated. Privately, his hold weakened. People didn't look at him with reverence anymore. They looked with reservation. As for Mom, she called more often. Her tone softer, her words laced with careful honesty. "I don't know how to fix this," she once said, "but I want to try." Clara left the business Dad had built for her. She started her own consulting firm, on her own terms. We talk, occasionally. Not as brother and sister making up for lost time, but as two people who understand where the damage came from. And me? I didn't get a grand victory. There was no courtroom drama, no inheritance reversal. But I got something else. Clarity. I saw the truth, named it, and stood by it. Not just for revenge, but for myself. And with that truth came space. Room to breathe. Room to build. Maybe not the family I always wanted, but a life I could finally live without begging for someone else's permission. And that was enough.